Save my Lord of Libs, my books with no words, speak to us now.
I'm talking about the fact that I'm faculty here. I also support a protester in the back.
What do you support specifically? Do you think that anti-immigrant rhetoric is violent free speech?
Yes, because of the reasons
You think that speech is
about.
violence?
No, I think that
That's what that sign says.
The conversation that you're having is oppressive.
So I am oppressing people by what I'm doing. So I am exerting violence on people by my speech. That's what the sign says, and that's what you just said.
It contributes to.
And the protester is saying that's exactly what I'm doing, and she's saying that's exactly what her sign means. So that means that you, a faculty member at an American public university, paid for by taxpayer dollars, are conflating speech with violence.
Yes. Speech can be violent. What you are saying contributes to systemic racism in this country. It means that my students of color are pulled over and accused of stealing a car when they did not.
I'm not pulling anybody over for stealing any
not
cars.
saying that you
I see many
personally
people
did.
of many different races in this room. They all seem to be doing just fine. I don't think any of them have felt violence because they listened to a lecture on basic facts about our immigration system. The question was, have I asked people in this room if they've felt as though some violence has been committed on them? No, I haven't asked, because no violence has been committed on you. Because violence is not a subjective feeling. Violence is an objective fact.
Mamma mia!
I can objectively gauge whether or not someone has become violent. The other day, I was at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Some protester attacked me with some weird chemical. That was an objective act of violence. But somebody disagreeing with me, such as some people in this room are doing, are not committing violence on me. And I would say to you, as a faculty member at a taxpayer-funded university, this is the foundation of liberal education. If you cannot understand that there is a difference between speech and violence, you don't understand anything that undergirds the liberal arts or liberal education. And that is a real shame. And I say this with all respect and with great distress for our universities. If our teachers don't understand the difference between ideas and violence, between speech and violence, then they are in no position to educate the next generation of Americans.
My question is also regarding the event at Politicon in which Mr. Nicholas J. Fuentes took a picture with you, and then only an hour and 20 minutes afterwards, you tried to slander him by associating him with racial bigotry and the alt-right, as you just said. Obviously, a picture in itself doesn't mean anything. You don't have to disagree, or you don't have to agree with anything that someone who takes a picture with you says, such as with Lady Maga. It's perfectly fine to take a picture with him. But my problem is that you have a very different reaction when it comes to either of them. When it comes to a young America First conservative like Mr. Fuentes, you slander them, trying to associate
I never
them with
slandered that person. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But I'll explain to you what happened. I'll explain to you what happened and why I'm much more happy to take a photo with somebody like Lady Maga, who obviously were very different people, but agree on certain things, than I am with somebody like Nick Fuentes, which is that Lady Maga is a nice guy, and we had a nice conversation, and we were very open, and it was a good faith discussion. And Nick Fuentes lied to my face, then lied about me on the internet. And then only when I figured out who he was, because I Googled him, I realized, and some might try to refute this in the room, but it's all on video, that he has endorsed Jim Crow segregation. He has denied that the Holocaust happened. He has associated himself with fascism openly. He said if Antifa were fascist, he would be marching alongside them. He has associated in the past with avowed racial bigots like James Alsop and Richard Spencer, though apparently now they're having something of a tiff from what I gather on the blogs. It is quite clear to me that he harbors racial bigotry. That's why I reject his politics. The reason I reject his photo is because he lied to my face and about me. Nothing in that is in good faith. I would take 1 million photos with Lady Maga before I would give a person who would do that the time of day.
If human taste isn't safe from the order of the
I just want to point out, you mentioned that 99% of scientists agree that man-made global warming is a very, very serious problem. The number that is usually cited, speaking of hyperbole, is 97%. And this was the line in the Al Gore movie. This is the line that people cite. That number is completely bogus. It is made up. Lock it away with the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus. It is not true. That number is based on 4 studies. NASA cites 4 studies to back it up. One is by the historian Naomi Oreskes that has serious methodological problems because it only cites abstracts of papers. When you actually look into what she cites, she gets to 75% consensus. There was then a rebuttal of that. There was a refutation of it that showed that not only is it not 75%, 2008 they showed it was actually 7% of those scientists explicitly endorsed the IPCC. The second one came out, it found 97% from the scientist John Cook. This was immediately debunked in the Science and Education. Actually only found that 1% of scientists surveyed explicitly supported the IPCC conclusion of catastrophic climate change. The third study was a 2-minute survey that was sent out to 10,000 people. 3,000 responded. They took out the scientists who would have been in fields that possibly could have attributed warming to the sun. And
Since you're trying to, well, instead of going through all the specific lists, since you're looking,
none
of us have a library with us to go and look and check these studies. So let me ask you, instead of rebutting that,
I knew I should have asked Ruben Studdard to moderate this debate.
Mamma mia! Don't worry, I'm sure he rehearsed that line in the bathroom this morning. So since you're rebutting things that he was mentioning,
Yep.
why don't we have you rebut the questions that he asked, which were specifically, why not do something about it? Because
I don't want to destroy 5.8 million jobs and get rid of 90% of American
but here's the...
Mamma mia, pizzeria, Michael knows is smarter than you.